Welcome. I'm Catherine Lucy, Executive Vice Dean and Vice Dean for Education at the UCSF School of Medicine. And on behalf of the entire School of Medicine, I want to welcome everyone, especially our first-year students and their families and friends. Now, it's important to acknowledge that these are very unusual circumstances under which we're doing the traditional white coat ceremony. All of you, when you received that acceptance and made the decision to come to UCSF, probably envisioned walking across the stage, handing your white coat to an associate dean, and having them help you don that white coat for the first time as official medical students. That's not possible during this pandemic. But our kudos to you and the warmth of our welcome remains. And I'd like everyone to take a moment, all of the entering students and their parents, and stop and think what a privilege we have to be here at this ceremony today, even virtually, because it represents a culmination of so much hard work and an entry into one of the most remarkable professions that there is. And for my colleagues who are already practicing physicians and UCSF faculty, I'd like you too to take a moment of gratitude for the fact that you were guided into this profession, have had so many years of supporting patients through the tremendously challenging times they have with illness and suffering. Now, before we go too much further, I'd like to introduce my mentor and our Dean of the School of Medicine, Dean Talmadge King, and ask him to make remarks to welcome this spectacular class into this wonderful university.
Greetings. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our first ever virtual white coat ceremony. This is an important and exciting day for you, your families, and your friends. I know this is not the white coat ceremony you envisioned when you applied to medical school, but given the profession you've selected, your life's work will always be done in an environment of unpredictability, requiring flexibility and new ways of approaching situations. Like you, we believe the white coat is a very powerful symbol of our profession. The white coat ceremony is an important acknowledgement of your start in medicine, as well as a way to welcome you and thank the people who believed in you and supported you to get here. As physicians and physicians in training, we commit to safety, science, and action to address the pandemic. And so for now, we celebrate the beginning of your journey virtually. I want to congratulate each of you on arriving at this milestone. You have no doubt worked hard to achieve your goal of entering medical school. Sir William Osler is often referred to as the father of modern medicine, and the first to bring medical students out of the lecture hall to the bedside clinical training. He once said, "The practice of medicine is an art, not a trade, a calling, not a business." Well, you've answered that call. You were selected for this class out of a pool of nearly 8,000 applicants. Why did we choose you? We chose you because of your strong sense of purpose to make a lasting impact in health and healthcare, in whatever form that may take over the next 4 years and beyond. We chose you because you have a mind driven by relentless curiosity. Your curiosity will serve as a spark for creativity and motivation throughout this journey. It will spur you to ask questions and drive you to actions that will help you find solutions to complex problems. We chose you because of your deep commitment to service, to serve diverse populations and work to erase the injustice of healthcare disparities, a commitment that will hopefully only deepen over time as you learn from and partner with others across the campus, city, state, and globe. Your backgrounds are diverse and your achievements already impressive. Your experiences have prepared you well to enter UCSF, one of the top medical and scientific institutions in the world. But let's not forget who supported you along the way, the special people in your life who inspired and nurtured you. Thank you to the families and close friends of the class of 2024. You are the fifth class that will be educated within the framework of our Bridges curriculum. The goal of this training is for you to become physician leaders who can transform 21st century healthcare. During your time at UCSF School of Medicine, You will look outside the walls of the hospital in many ways. You will work with our communities to ensure that all patients have equal access to the same high-quality personal care we would wish for our family and friends. You will learn to provide compassionate care to patients in all stages of life and from diverse backgrounds. You will investigate questions, contribute to scientific knowledge, manage uncertainty, and commitment to lifelong learning. You will understand the value of integrated teams where each health professional contributes their unique skills for the benefit of our patients. You will work to measure and improve the safety, quality, and value of patient care. You will learn to tap into big data and information technology to improve patient care. You will study the causes of healthcare disparities, and you will have plenty of support. You will develop close and impactful relationships with your personal coaches. These master clinicians will guide you along the way throughout the years of your training. As you start conducting your own research, you will have leading scientists mentor you. We will partner with you to continuously enhance a learning environment that is exciting, challenging, and inclusive. At the end of your training, you will emerge as a UCSF physician, ready to tackle the great health challenges of our time. The White Coat Ceremony is a rite of passage, welcoming you as a new medical student into the medical profession. As a medical student, you are bound by the same professional commitments that bind all physicians. Today, to mark the beginning of this journey, you will be reciting the UCSF Physician Declaration. This declaration reflects the core principles that physicians from around the world have agreed on: altruism, responsibility, duty, honor, respect, and compassion. At the UCSF School of Medicine and UCSF at large, we have a long history of social activism. We count on you to champion our goal of making UCSF the most diverse, equitable, and inclusive academic medical system in the country. To be a place where people from all backgrounds feel they belong and can be successful. People are UCSF's greatest asset, indeed our most powerful resource. We thrive because our faculty, staff, and trainees care deeply about their work, our patients, and each other. Your career starts today, and the future is exciting and challenging. The past decades have seen enormous progress. You are entering the medical profession at a tumultuous time, but also one of immense opportunity. We are glad you are joining us as we navigate the intersection of the pandemic, historic national events, racism, and your education. As you embrace the future, hold on to the qualities we see in you today, the qualities that will help you succeed as a physician. I hope you will love the journey as much as I have. Welcome to the UCSF School of Medicine, and congratulations. You have joined an amazing community.
Thank you, Dean King, for those wonderful words. Now I'd like to introduce our next speaker. Our alumni and community teaching faculty are critical to our students' education, and it is my delight to welcome Dr. Ramona Tascoe, President of the School of Medicine Alumni Association. We are so grateful every year to the Alumni Association, who provide the students with their first white coats. Dr. Tascoe is a member of the UCSF class of 1979. As an Oakland-based physician and community activist, she has had a global reputation for effective and courageous leadership, having led medical missions to Kenya following the 1998 embassy bombings, Tanzania, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Angola, India, Sri Lanka, and Haiti following the 2010 earthquake, where she continues to advise on major health efforts. Dr. Tascoe is a 2019 recipient of the UCSF Campaign Compassionate Alumni Award and is currently serving as the president of the UCSF Medical Alumni Association. Dr. Tascoe, thank you for your leadership, and we look forward to your remarks.
Greetings, my new colleagues. On behalf of the UCSF Medical Alumni Association, It gives me great pleasure to welcome you, our first-year students, to the UCSF School of Medicine. Apart from your outstanding fulfillment of pre-medical requirements, you have demonstrated evidence of your superior intelligence by your choice of UCSF as your pathway to the profession of medicine. At UCSF, alumni are invested in you. The white coat you have received is our gift to you and our way of saying welcome to the profession. The white coat ceremony at UCSF began in 1993. The coat is a traditional symbol of the medical clinician and scientist and has come to represent the knowledge, skill, and wisdom and the integrity of our profession. Even more, it sets us apart as being ultimately responsible for the guidance of competent, thoughtful, clinical decision-making. Your senior colleagues and I have embraced this mantle. More than 45 years ago, I took up the white coat, and it has become for me, as it may become for you, a training tool, and inevitably a reminder of the privilege and the sacred trust given to each of us who actively achieve the title physician. Your acceptance of this coat is an affirmation that, along with acquiring the requisite knowledge, you also accept the responsibility for developing and maintaining professional and collegial attitudes and behaviors in the work that you do and in your relationship with patients, the community, classmates, teachers, and the alumni. And so, on behalf of the Medical Alumni Association, I charge you with the responsibility to master the science and the art of medicine, to acknowledge that scientific scholarship is not static, nor does it exist exclusively through the vacuum of hospitals, clinics, and research centers. The unique social challenges of your patients and the communities from which they emerge must be a primary source of your scholarship and your action as well. Hear their voices in this historic moment as we witness the parallel pandemics of racism, discrimination, and of course, COVID-19. Find your voice. Innovate. Innovate your capacity and the style by which you lead with grace. Remember, the Medical Alumni Association and the network of over 21,000 established physicians, residents, and fellow alumni are invested in you and your success. Success as you proceed through your medical education experience. There may be times when you have difficulty finding balance and need a word of encouragement or support. We'll be sharing information on ways to connect with us, but we'll be there for you. And we will coordinate events and opportunities to connect you with alumni throughout your student years. So call on us for help and support at any time. You are part of something big, the UCSF experience, and it connects us all for life. Please, know that we consider you and those you love, those who love and care about you, as part of our family, even now. So, may your path to becoming physicians and scientists, and your contribution to humankind across the journey of your lives as future physicians, fulfill your vision and your greatest passion, and may it become nourishment to your soul. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Tascoe. I am now honored to introduce my colleague and our keynote speaker, Dr. George Rutherford. Dr. Rutherford was born and raised in San Diego and came to Northern California in 1970 to study at Stanford. There he received 2 bachelor's degrees in classics and chemistry and a master's degree in history before going east to attend Duke for medical school. Following a residency in pediatrics, he was an epidemic intelligence service officer for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, stationed in Atlanta and New York City. He was transferred by the CDC back to San Francisco in 1985 to help the San Francisco Department of Public Health organize and extend its HIV/AIDS programs. After positions as the state epidemiologist, state health officer for California, and an associate dean at the School of Public Health at the University of California, Berkeley, he came to UCSF full-time in 1997, where he has remained. He is currently the Salvatore Pablo Lucia Professor of Epidemiology, Preventive Medicine, Pediatrics, and History. George's interest is in the epidemiology, prevention, and control of infectious diseases of public health significance. He directs the Division of Infectious Disease and Global Epidemiology in the Department of Epidemiology and Biostatistics, and the Global Strategic Information Program in the Institute for Global Health Sciences. He also directs our residency program in general preventive medicine and public health, and his pre-COVID-19 research focused primarily on the control of HIV in low-income countries. He is the recipient of the Holly Smith Award for Exceptional Service to the School of Medicine. And since the pandemic has emerged in March, Dr. Rutherford has been a steady presence on numerous town halls, guiding our leadership and informing our community about important facts and issues related to the COVID pandemic. Dr. Rutherford, thank you for speaking to our students today.
Good evening and welcome to UCSF. We live in very, very interesting times, and they're about to get more interesting. San Francisco is, of course, no stranger to interesting times. You've moved to an eclectic and cosmopolitan city. Get used to calling San Francisco the city anytime you're west of the Hudson River. Our modern roots were planted in 1848 when people came from all over the world to seek their fortunes in the gold fields of the Sierra Nevada foothills. Our history is enriched by the native Alumni peoples and early Spanish settlers, and subsequently by immigrants from all points of the globe, west, south, and east. Chinese migration began during the gold rush and reached a high of 300,000. This was 1/10 of the population of California by 1880, before immigration was abruptly halted by the passage of the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, which parenthetically was not repealed until 1943. In the 1920s, refugees from the Russian Revolution who'd crossed the great expanse of Russia to China found a home in the Inner Richmond. African Americans came to the city in the 1930s during the Great Migration, and in the 1940s to work in the shipyards of the East Bay and to enrich the city's culture. The Fillmore District, just down the street, was the center of jazz on the West Coast. In the 1940s, San Francisco was also the port of departure for many soldiers, sailors, and Marines as they left to fight in World War II in the Pacific. When they returned, many settled, in particular gay men who'd been less than honorably discharged, forming the nucleus of our gay and lesbian community. Through the 1950s to present day, immigrants from Latin America, notably Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Nicaragua, have combined with descendants of original Spanish and Mexican settlers to enrich our Latin American roots. In 1967, the Summer of Love resounded through Haight-Ashbury, just down the street from our Parnassus campus, bringing young people in droves to the city, some of whom remain. In fact, the term hippie was coined in San Francisco by Herb Caen, a longtime columnist for the San Francisco Chronicle. And, most recently, young people working in the tech industry in faraway Silicon Valley have settled in droves in San Francisco with an attendant rise in housing costs and the squeezing out of older communities. In fact, there are so many that the commute has been reversed, and now people drive out of the city rather than into the city each workday morning. This particular year, 2020, has been marred by the pandemic of the novel coronavirus, which has swept around the world and is leaving profound suffering in its wake. San Francisco is no stranger to epidemic and pandemic disease, and many San Franciscans can actually answer the question, what is public health, and know that epidemiology is not a subspecialty of dermatology. The bubonic plague came to San Francisco on ships from Asia and Hawaii in the first decade of the 20th century, resulting in 2 separate outbreaks and subsequent seeding of the plague bacillus in the California ground squirrel population, which persists in enzootic form to this day. Chinese and Japanese immigrants were unfairly blamed as the vectors of plague, and in 1900 were quarantined initially to the city and subsequently to Chinatown, a quarantine order that was eventually overturned in federal court. There are several other less than our finest moments in these outbreaks, but the systematic oppression and scapegoating of a particular segment of society are lessons that we clearly remember and have vowed not to repeat. The Spanish flu, which you will learn was not Spanish in origin at all, decimated the world in the final year of World War I and the first year after the armistice. San Francisco, as a major port city, was particularly vulnerable to influenza and organized a robust public health campaign, including the mandatory wearing of masks to prevent spread. This was quite successful, but the citizenry chafed under the mask requirement. Sound familiar? And at noon on November 21st, 1918, 10 days after the end of World War I, whistles blew and sirens clanged citywide, signaling an end to the masking ordinance. San Franciscans threw away their masks by the thousands, and the Chronicle described Market Street as a sea of gauze. However, this was far too premature, and the city continued to battle influenza well into the spring of 1919, at which point an additional 1,400 deaths had occurred, deaths that would have likely been preventable if people had just kept their masks on. Many of you may be aware of the early history of HIV in San Francisco, a disease that literally decimated the Castro district and has been a major focus of UCSF research and clinical care since the early 1980s. I came to San Francisco in 1985. I'd been an epidemic intelligence service officer at the Centers for Disease Control and had subsequently joined the staff at CDC. I spent 2 years stationed at the New York City Department of Health before being transferred in March of 1985 to the San Francisco Department of Public Health. Here I began working with the city's HIV epidemiology, prevention, and service programs. I entered a world of hurt. There had been almost 1,000 AIDS cases by then and untold suffering. UCSF had a remarkable partnership with the Department of Public Health, not only through San Francisco General Hospital, but also through the clinical services at Parnassus and the VA and the basic science laboratories of Jay Levy and others. Hope, to the extent that there was hope, came from inspirational physicians, Donald Abrams, Paul Volberding, and Connie Wofsy, and from my epidemiologic and public health colleagues, Andrew Moss, Warren Winkelstein, and David Werdiger, who pushed those of us at the Department of Public Health to protect the public health and provide the scientific knowledge needed to eventually turn the epidemic around and one day to eliminate HIV. The lessons learned from those terrible experiences, humility, caring, seeking wisdom from affected communities, basing decisions on science and getting up every morning determined to do the right thing, have helped us tremendously as we battle the current coronavirus scourge. While the history of HIV may be well known to many of you, the lessons of epidemics of deinstitutionalizing the mentally ill, often overlapping with an epidemic of drug use that in many ways began in the Summer of Love in 1967, may be less well known. In 1959, 37,500 patients were hospitalized in California's mental health system. A variety of factors, economic, political, psychopharmaceutical, therapeutic, legal, and political, came together, leading to a series of policy decisions by Governors Brown and Reagan to essentially empty the extensive state mental hospital system in favor of less restrictive outpatient therapy. Individuals with poorly controlled serious mental illness did not fare well, and over the years they and others who have come later and may have benefited from inpatient therapy ended up on the streets. Homelessness is much more complicated than this, with a large economic component as rents rise, leading low-wage earners with few options. But this is at least one of the root causes of what we see around us today. When COVID-19 came to the Bay Area in January, we were better prepared than most other parts of the country and willing to act decisively. We'd learned the lessons of AIDS well. Mayor Breed declared a state of emergency on February 25th, fully 9 days before the first 2 cases were reported in the city, and the Department of Public Health, in concert with the other 6 health departments in the Bay Area, issued its shelter-in-place order on March 16th, not coincidentally the day before St. Patrick's Day. We now have experienced an initial wave of infection and hospitalization in April and May, and with the remarkable cooperation of the public, were able to minimize transmission and flatten the curve so much that UCSF was able to lend intensive care physicians, nurses, and respiratory therapists to New York City and to the Navajo Nation. However, the pandemic's far from over, and we're now squarely in the middle of a second wave that's dwarfed April's. The governor and the mayor are taking great pains to not reopen too soon again, and the result is a city that is at once strangely quiet downtown, almost like in some apocalyptic science fiction film, but bustling in its residential cores and parks as people seek to get out and not let the fleeting summer go by. You'll be required to abide by these new ordinances, wearing masks whenever you venture out of your homes, maintaining social distancing, and in particular inside, staying home if you're sick, and washing your hands frequently. Please, 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 wear your masks religiously, and for now, stay out of bars and clubs. We do not, and I repeat, do not, want an outbreak in our first-year medical student class. And use your influence as physicians in training to debunk crazy and distracting rumors and fake news. Recently, Breitbart News published a story in which a group of doctors claimed that masks were unnecessary and that hydroxychloroquine cured the virus. It received 14 million views in 6 hours on Facebook and was retweeted by President Trump. So welcome to my world. But we're not only facing the challenge of pandemic disease, we're facing a complex overlap of 3 national and international emergencies: the pandemic, the sudden collapse of our economic prosperity, and a long overdue reckoning with America's not-so-subtle embrace of systemic racism. The death of George Floyd at the hands of the Minneapolis police on May 25th sparked protests throughout the country and throughout the world. Our 401-year history of African slavery and our 157-year history of economic and social exclusion of African Americans from the American mainstream since the Emancipation Proclamation are being challenged as they have not been challenged since the Civil Rights Movement of the 1960s. The brutalizing and murder of African Americans by police, other officialdoms, and the public have been laid bare as never before. The phrase Black Lives Matter has rallied the nation, and it is all of our jobs to fight anti-Blackness and the pervasive racism that is interwoven in contemporary American culture. Yes, even here in San Francisco, until they are distant and unhappy memories. As physicians, you'll have a key role in assuring equity in healthcare and health. Good health is inexorably intertwined with the prosperity so long overdue, our fellow citizens. The COVID pandemic has laid bare the deep fault lines in our society, and until we understand and address the fundamental inequalities that have led to almost endemic disease in the Latino, Native, and African American communities of California and the West, we will not be able to slow or reverse its course. The UCSF pride values professionalism, respect, integrity, diversity, and excellence should be our guiding lights for standing up each and every day to improve the lives of all. Almost 45 years ago to the day, I participated in my own white coat ceremony. A Californian, I felt like a fish out of water at Duke University, which was just then beginning to emerge from its segregated past. As will you, I also took a modified oath. The original is attributed to the physician Hippocrates of Kos, an island near modern-day Turkey, and was written some 2,500 years ago. We, as will you, didn't recite the actual Hippocratic Oath, where one swore by Apollo, physician, by Asclepius, by Hygeia, by Panacea, and by all the gods and goddesses, but the ideas were mostly the same. The patient comes first, do no harm, and live and practice in an ethical manner. These principles should govern your practice, whether you care for individual patients or for entire populations. In closing, I'd like to bring this all together and call your attention to one phrase in the oath you will take. I will oppose policies in breach of human rights and will not participate in them. I will strive to change laws that are contrary to my profession's ethics and will work towards a fair distribution of health resources. There's your ticket for righting systemic wrongs, seeking equity, and protecting human rights. Go out and do good for the people of the city and county of San Francisco, for the people of California, for the people of the United States of America, and for the people of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rutherford. Now I'd like to take a moment to recognize a few unique programs we have within the School of Medicine. The UCSF UC Berkeley Joint Medical Program, or JMP, is led by Director John Balmes. Students spend 2.5 years on the Berkeley campus fulfilling the basic science and pre-clerkship requirements for their MD degree, while also completing a master's degree in health and medical sciences from the University of California, Berkeley. Upon completion of this phase, 17 Joint Medical Program students transfer to the UCSF campus and join their colleagues from the UCSF main program to complete their clinical requirements and graduate with an MD degree from UCSF. UCSF's program in medical education for the urban underserved, or Prime US, is a special 5-year track for medical students interested in working with urban underserved populations. Led by Director Dr. Lee Kimberg, Prime US has 11 new students from the entering class at UCSF and 4 students from the entering class at the Joint Medical Program. Led by Director Sohail Sagashji, the Oral and Maxillofacial Surgery, or OMFS residency program, has 4 residents who have graduated with dental degrees and now whose journey leads to an MD degree and certification in oral maxillofacial surgery. The San Joaquin Valley Program in Education, or SJV Prime, is a tailored track for 12 medical students who are committed to ensuring high-quality medical care to improve the health for populations, communities, and individuals in California's San Joaquin Valley. Students spend their first 18 months at the main campus in San Francisco, and then the next 2.5 years at the UCSF Fresno campus. This program is led by Director Dr. Lauren Alving. A combined MD-PhD program is led by Director Mark Anderson. The Medical Scientist Training Program, or MSTP, is an integrated training program that combines graduate and medical school curricula and leads to both the MD and PhD degrees. It is designed to produce highly qualified physician scientists who will pursue outstanding careers in academic medicine and research. Now it is my great honor to turn the program over to 6 important colleagues who will interact with you throughout your medical education. I am honored to get to work with these committed, talented, and compassionate educators every day. Dr. Michelle Albert is a professor of medicine, cardiologist, and director of the UCSF Center for the Study of Adversity. She is a national expert in cardiovascular biomarkers as well as health disparities. She serves as our Associate Dean for Admissions, and in that role ensures that we identify and admit outstanding students like those who are participating in today's White Coat ceremony into our medical school. Dr. Peter Chin Hong is the Associate Dean for Regional Campuses and Professor of Medicine. He works with the leaders at UC Berkeley and UCSF Fresno to ensure that all experiences the students have in these unique tracks are comparable in quality and support to those provided at the UCSF main campus. Dr. John Davis is the Associate Dean for Curriculum. Dr. Davis is a professor of medicine specializing in infections in the immunocompromised hosts. His expertise in medical education is in curriculum development, particularly in the development of LGBTQ inclusive curricula. He's the architect of our curriculum, and he supports students in their individualized paths to graduation. Dr. Karen Hauer is a professor of medicine and the Associate Dean for Assessment. She is a nationally recognized expert in medical student assessment, and she designs our assessment programs to ensure that all students develop the skills and knowledge they need to be excellent physicians and lifelong learners, and that all assessment is conducted in an equitable fashion. She also directs the medical school coaching program. Dr. Lee Jones is the Associate Dean of Students. Dr. Jones is a board-certified psychiatrist who is a national leader in student support. He and the student experience team provide services and programs that support the emotional growth, well-being, and identity formations of students as they pursue their medical education. Kevin Souza is the Associate Dean for Medical Education. He has administrative responsibilities for medical student and graduate medical education programs, provides an outstanding infrastructure for our deans, faculty, and staff to work in, and has been instrumental in enhancing our educational programs with technology innovations.
Brooke Haile Abegas, Anne Shneha Abraham, Abiana Odessa Elaine Adamson, Irina Dan Isleta Udo, Emmanuel Uchena Agu, Fayaz Reza Ahmed, Ariana Josefina Anderi, Nigel Parker Anderson, Christopher Dwayne Anse, Donna Apia, Norman Trevor Archer, Marcus Armendariz, Ayush Aora, Joshua Nissan Asiaban, Antonio Avalos Perez, Logan William Bailey, Endurpret Kaur Bal, Rio Elizabeth Barry Kane, Dariush David Baziani, Yunanush Bull Achow, Daniel James Bennett, Isaac Jules Benke, Sirut Kawar Buller, Christine Boutros, Adria K. Bowles, Daisy Flores Brambila, Zach Alexander Brown, Michelle Kim Ing Bui, Jenny Roselle Ceballos, Nicholas Alexander Ceballos,
April Chen, Chloe Cheng, Hannah Mayreen Chi, Brenda Melissa Cheng, Ebenezer Olisadera Chinedu Ene, Luther Emmanuel Copeland Jr., Jessica Lynn Crockett, Anna Marisa Crossetti, Jessa Culver, Yasina Ayana Day, Emmanuel Demise, Ria Desai, Manuela Lawechu Jomale, Hunter DeLugas, Stacy Seiko Dojuri, Eva Duvalian, Christiane Alexis Edrosalin, Kia Catherine Rich Edwards, Davidson Foss Emanuels, Michael Omofuma Esegbe, Israel Oladipupo Falade, Winnie Fan, Anna Claire Gabor Fernandez, Megan Duita Fu, Pedro Gallardo, Christian Garcia Hernandez, Ayushi Sharma Gautam, Allison Nicole Gomez, Francisco Javier Gomez Alvarado, Eileen Gosali,
Jimmy Graham, Emma Greenstreet Ackman, Richard Daniel Gutierrez, Rodrigo Andres Gutierrez, Mary Jessica Hawkins, Christopher Addison Hill, Christopher Joe Hinojosa, Samuel Benjamin Helsher, Karis Brooke Hapi, Christopher David Hubner, Kene Chukwu Chukwuma Ifagu, Thomas Francis Batten Ituarte, Pooja Iyer, Drake Gotham Johnson, Amrik Singh Kang, Hannah Une Kang, Brandon Cow, Kiranjot Kaur, Luke Sung Kim, Richard Wonjong Kim, Georgia Kern, Meredith Claire Clashman, Hannah Morgan Kortbawi, Ayush Kumar, Sophie Ann Kopayak-Wiglinski, Lydia A.J. Kuating, Amanda Nicole Leon, Paige Laurel Lerman, Olivia Moon Leventhal, Kevin Dennis Lee, Jar Yi Lu, Vishali Lumba, Justin Anthony Mangohig Lopez, Ryan Lutfi, Patrick Lowe, Alice I-Ching Liu, Jessica Yin Ma, Charles Webb McCauley, Jennifer Allison McKinnon Krems, Michelle Martinelli, Josias Araya Maru, Madeline Butler Mathis, Oseas Medina, Muki Iyab Mahari, Sabrina Isabel Mendez Contreras, David Dominique Meneno, Sharia Menon, Chris Merrill, Theodore Andrew Miklau, Ayush Dinesh Midha, Vanessa Mura, Karen Barry Murphy, Audrey Smiles Vimba, Carolyn Conry Nadiner, Cesar Humberto Nave Gonzalez, Mikias Berhanu Nagusi, Kira DeMay Nyland, Anthony Wynn, Elaine Tantrak Nguyen, Min Patrick Cow Nguyen, Hamadullah Nuruhoda,
Kelsey Rachel Ogomori, Reinhold Holly Olson, Grant Henry Oshida, Saheen Park, Susan Sunha Park, Sohil Patel, Niti Pawar, Robert James Pierce, Jacob Norwood Perez Stringer. Elizabeth Picasso. Binoy Pudar. Neha Pondicherry. Anita Ellen Qualls. Kate Jillian Radcliffe. Melanie Abigail Rader. Karen Patricia Reyes. Jennifer Rios. Colin Alexander Roach. Tatiana Del Carmen Roberts. Huber Rodriguez Tejada. Nora Francis Rudd. Jennifer Marie Ritz. Rita Fatima Sachidanandan. Satvir Suggi. Nathan Renee Sanchez. Kyle Kai Shen. John Helling Shen Sampez. Kunal Shroff. Alexander Budagor Silva. Winton Michael Sims. Taryn Catherine Sirius.
Michelle Ray Siros. Jeremy Wafong Su. Juliana Janae Smith. Ann Chang Summer. Jake Sonnenberg. Gabriela Milagro Steiner. Abu Tahir Mohammed Taha. Alex Fu Tang. Christopher Adam Tehran. Kai Robert Trepka. Nicole Trong. Adrian Valderrama. Gerardo Hernandez Velasquez. Stephanie Vera. Samuel Ari Vidro. Kiara Anna Elizabeth Vobel. Abubakar Wage. Jeremy Chichao Wang. Brooke Rosalie Warren. Rachel Elizabeth Warren. Kamina Wilkerson. Jasmine Chantel Wilson. John Albert Wong Castillo, Adrian Kavita Yang, Stephen Chang-O Yang, Han Su Yin, Siavash Zamirpur, Connie Jiayi Zhou, Sarah Zhou, J. Wolf Zussman,
Now I am very pleased to introduce Dr. Charlene Blake, who will lead our entering students and all physicians who are participating in this ceremony in this recitation of the UCSF Physicians Declaration. Dr. Charlene Blake is an associate professor in the Department of Anesthesia and Perioperative Care. Following completion of a bachelor's degree in chemistry from Fisk University, Dr. Blake entered the medical scientist training program at Duke University School of Medicine, earning a PhD in genetics and genomics along with her MD. She then completed an internship and residency in anesthesiology at Washington University in St. Louis, followed by subspecialty fellowship training in adult cardiothoracic anesthesiology before joining the UCSF faculty in 2015 as a John A. Watson faculty scholar. Dr. Blake focuses her energy on holistically delivering the highest quality clinical care, educating learners of all levels, and championing diversity, equity, and inclusion. In addition to intraoperative teaching, large group lecturing, and facilitating small group discussions, Dr. Blake serves as co-director of the Introduction to Career Launch and CODA courses in the fourth-year School of Medicine courses. She created UCSF SCORE, Students Capturing the Operating Room Experience, and is a Dean's Diversity Leader for the learning environment. Dr. Blake, thank you for joining us and for leading us in this important declaration.
At your graduation ceremony, you will say the declaration once again, after you have received the Doctor of Medicine degree. This important ritual honors the professionalism that characterizes the doctor-patient relationship. I would like to ask the students, faculty, and all physicians in the audience to please join me and recite the UCSF Physicians Declaration, which can be found in the program. As a physician, I solemnly promise that I will serve humanity, caring for the sick, promoting good health, and alleviating pain and suffering. I recognize that the practice of medicine is a privilege with which comes considerable responsibility, and I will not abuse my position. I will practice medicine with integrity, humility, honesty, and compassion, working with my fellow physicians and other healthcare professionals to meet the needs of my patients. I shall never intentionally do or administer anything to the overall harm of my patients. I will not permit considerations of gender, race, religion, political affiliation, sexual orientation, nationality, or social standing to influence my duty of care. I will oppose policies in breach of human rights and will not participate in them. I will strive to change laws that are contrary to my profession's ethics and will work towards a fair distribution of health resources. I will assist my patients to make informed decisions that coincide with their own values and beliefs and will uphold patient confidentiality. I will recognize the limits of my expertise and seek to maintain and increase my understanding and skills throughout my professional life. As a lifelong learner, I will support teaching and research and strive to apply evidence-based practices to promote the advancement of medical knowledge. I will uphold this promise to the best of my ability and will acknowledge and try to remedy my own mistakes and honestly assess and respond to those of others. I make this declaration solemnly, freely, and upon my honor.
Today, with this ceremony, you're joining a truly spectacular community of physicians, nurses, pharmacists, social workers, administrators, educators, and support staff, all of whom come to work each day to make the world better for our patients. The entirety of the UCSF community stands ready to support and learn with you. My advice to you is to be sure that your white coat signifies your readiness to support and learn from them. When next we, everyone in this video, you, your faculty, and your loved ones, meet 4 or more years down the road, the ceremony will require you to temporarily shed your white coats and instead don a black cap and gown and green velvet hood, and we will all be cheering as we send you off on your way as UCSF Physicians for Life. So welcome to the journey, welcome to medicine, and welcome to UCSF. To the parents, friends, and loved ones in the audience, thank you so much for sharing this evening's event and for becoming part of the UCSF family. We look forward to being able to meet all of you in person at a later date, when we are all able. Thank you and good night.